Welcome to Biff's Mystery Theater. I have many tales to tell you. Ghost stories, murder stories, and tales that will make your bones chill. Join me, won't you? For Theater of the Mind, where you always have the best seat in the house. Now close your eyes and turn off the lights.
Are you upset with today's headlines? Worried about the high cost of living? Want to get away from it all?
CBS offers you Escape.
You are the friend of a man living in death, confidant of a ghoul, witness to a nameless terror. You are a guest in the House of Usher.
The Columbia Broadcasting System and its affiliated stations present Escape, produced and directed by William N. Robeson, and carefully plotted to free you from the four walls of today for a half hour of high adventure.
Tonight, we escape to a gloom-shrouded moor and a house where dread holds sway, as Edgar Allan Poe recounts it in his famous story, The Fall of the House of Usher.
It is with some regret, but I believe advisable that I identify myself only as a friend of Roderick Usher. Certainly the last and perhaps the only friend of that unhappy man. Having only one sister, he was the last male descendant of the ancient house of Usher. Roderick had been one of my boon companions in boyhood, but many years had elapsed now since our last meeting. And so as I held his letter in my hand, not yet opening it, I reflected with no little sadness upon the devious fates that chart our courses and drive old friends away from one another. But then a sudden feverish and nostalgic curiosity laid hold of me, and with fingers made clumsy by their eagerness, I tore open the letter and read,
My dear friend, my need of you has so far outgrown my pride that I'm going to request a favor which I realize full well may involve considerable inconvenience to yourself. For some time past, I have been suffering from an acute bodily illness intensified by serious mental oppression, if I may so call it. A horror which looms over me, a horror grown so great I dare no longer face it alone. And so, in all humility, and for the sake of years gone by, I beseech you to come to me at once, here to the family estate in the north. Should events conspire to prevent your coming, then only God may know the consequences. Your friend in desperation, Roderick Usher.
And so it happened that at the end of a dull, dark, and soundless day in the middle of October, I found myself as the shades of evening drew on, within view of the grim and melancholy House of Usher. I confess that the first sight of the house, the fungus-covered walls of stone thrusting their crumbling ramparts against the darkening sky, rising out of the sullen, sluggish waters of the black tarn at their base, the bleak and vacant windows staring blindly, the bone-white trunks of decaying trees. These things filled me with a nameless and desolate terror, so that I reined in my horse and sat trembling, half fearing to cross the wooden bridge that led over the waters of the moat and up to the entrance of the house of Usher. Then impatiently I shook off this strange feeling of dread, and was an instant later clattering over the wooden bridge and onto the courtyard. I dismounted quickly, tossed my reins to the silent lackey who approached, strode across the gravel and up to the massive wooden portal, the door of the house of Usher. Good afternoon. My name
I
is...
know. You're the friend of Master Roderick. Please come inside, sir.
Thank you. But may I inquire how it happens you know me?
You have been expected for some time, sir.
Yes, true. But also I'm a stranger to you and could be some other visitor.
That you could be anyone other than the friend whom Master Roderick expects, sir, would be impossible. You see, no one else would ever come to this house.
Then I followed his stealthy footsteps through many dark and intricate passages. My earlier foreboding heightened and was made fearful by the somber aspect of the hallways by which we passed. The many unused rooms reaching out with their vast emptiness like some hideous jungle creeper. But at length we stood before the door of the master's studio, and there the servant left me, departed and left me to go in alone. The man across the room, half reclining on the couch, his back turned toward me, did not hear the opening of the door. For the space of several heartbeats, I saw only the deathly pale and ghastly sunken features of a stranger. Then only with difficulty could I recognize, behind that mask, my boyhood friend. For surely, under light of heaven, no man had ever before so terribly altered in so brief a time as had Roderick Usher.
Oh, my friend, you've come at last. Thank God you did come.
Oh, Roderick, did you not know I would? Could you not be sure that no long years would ever dim the friendship we shared in youth?
So many things have dimmed. Ah, youth. It seems so long ago. But now you're here, and we'll find it, relive it all over again, every glorious moment of it. And all these shadows, all these gibbering phantoms that haunt me, they'll be driven out. And then the sun will shine again, and we'll be young again and relive...
Roderick!
Oh, but forgive me, my friend. My excessive joy at the sight of you after so many years drives me into a frenzy of talk. How many years has it? Oh, no matter. It is enough that you are here, and brought with you all the lost, all the happy days of my boyhood.
But I'd expected from your letter to find you in serious straits indeed. Instead, you seem in the best of spirits.
You have the right to know. But in all frankness, here in your presence, I find it difficult to credit importance to those things which only yesterday filled me with terror. True, I've been ill. A nervous affliction, something in the nature of a family weakness, probably. It has affected me with a morbid acuteness of the senses, such that quite often the least sounds and odors and colors become irritating beyond endurance. Then I've eaten but little, as you can see.
But surely you've retained the services of a physician.
A physician? Oh, yes, of course. He calls almost daily, though it is more often Madeline that he attends. You remember my twin sister, Madeline? For her I fear more greatly than for myself. Even today she's taken to her bed, and I have no doubt will never rise from it again.
Oh, a tragedy. The sympathies of my heart go out to you.
Oh, but leave it for the present. Leave it to dream of all those happy days we left so far behind. Everything will be different now that you're here. Do you remember when we were 12?
But the happy forgetfulness which Roderick found in my coming was short-lived, and in a few days he had sunk into a morose torpor, from which only occasionally with frantic difficulty could he reach the joy of our first few hours of meeting. More often his mental apathy was broken by bursts of vicious temper and violent ill humor, fits I could only excuse on the basis of his illness. And that illness began in my mind to assume a most mysterious character. Being unable to divine its true nature from Roderick's hesitant offerings, I took the liberty of questioning the physician a few days later when I chanced to encounter him in a hallway.
Yes, she's resting as well as might be expected.
But she continues to decline. Is that not correct, Doctor?
That would seem to be the case.
And the malady, the illness which has stricken her, is it the same as that which affects her brother Roderick?
I may venture that it is.
Might I inquire the nature of this illness?
As to that, I am unable to say.
You imply, then, that I have no right to the information?
Not at all. I am confessing to you quite simply, sir. I do not know what afflicts Madeline and Roderick Usher.
And so a week passed. A week in which the sullen, leaden skies darkened into deeper oppressiveness, in which Roderick's deathly pallor and creeping mental dissolution grew more apparent. A week in which the monstrous atmosphere of this ancient mausoleum began to crawl insidiously within my own consciousness, stirring into life a formless, unknown dread. Then one evening, we were sitting in the vaulted studio, while the first shadows of night began to flow together into pools of darkness. Roderick had been unusually troubled during the day, and had been trying to find some solace by playing on the violin. Of a sudden, there came a knock upon the door.
Stop it! Stop that infernal pounding, do you hear? Do you wish to drive me completely mad? Open the door and come in, come in!
It's the doctor.
Well, what is it? What do you want?
Master Usher, I regret that I must say this, but it is my sad duty to inform you that your sister Madeline is no longer living.
Madeline, my sister. Then she's dead?
She breathes no more.
Dead? And perhaps, my dear doctor, you can tell me what caused her death.
Unfortunately, I can only take refuge in the term heart failure.
Heart failure? Yes, of course. Very well, Doctor. If you'll be kind enough to wait, I'll come down directly and discuss the arrangement.
At your service. I bid you good afternoon, gentlemen.
Roderick, I assure you of my deepest sympathy.
You do. Your deepest sympathy. The doctor regrets his sad duty. Are you fools, both of you fools?
I don't understand.
Haven't you seen it yet? Can you not feel it about you? The horrid, monstrous, brooding spirit of this accursed house. Can't you hear its evil laughter as it lurks in the hallways and grows fat upon the soul? My dead sister.
Roderick.
Can't you see that it matters nothing to me that she's dead? That I myself walk but a few steps behind her into the same shadows of hell? Can't you sense those hideous tentacles even now reaching out for me? For me, who now the last living, if it be living, the last living descendant of the accursed house of Usher.
Such was the passing of Madeline Usher, once living, now dead. And her very death, untimely in its aspects, bore to my trembling soul a portent of events yet more hideous, more horrible, and yet to come. At a later hour of that same sad night, Roderick came into my chamber to voice an intention so morbidly unnatural that for the moment I could only feel that his tottering reason had at last failed him entirely.
Then you refuse?
But Roderick, this is madness.
I tell you, before this night is over, the coffin body of my sister shall rest in the vault beneath this house, and if you will not help me, I shall do it myself.
But why? Why?
I could not stand to think of her buried out there in the dark graveyard, alone among the dead.
Roderick, she too is dead.
It's fantastic how little we know of death or of life. The doctor says she no longer breathes.
She is dead.
She was so lovely, was my sister.
Roderick.
I must keep Madeline near me.
Nothing but evil would come of such an act.
I can trust no one but you. Not even the physician himself. He hates us because he can't discover what it is that kills us. Even he might steal the body of my beloved sister, that he might learn our secret. You understand, don't you, my friend?
Yes, Roderick. Yes, I understand. And so it came about. Near midnight, we two alone made our way to an upper chamber of the house. And taking up the black coffin between us, in the shuddering light of candles, we walked the tortuous passageways, slowly descended the curving stairs of stone, passed beneath the moldy level of the earth, forced open a massive and age-rusted door of iron, and stood at last, with our ghastly burden, in a subterranean, dank and musty crypt, underneath the house of Usher.
Over here, my friend, on these trestles. Now, a trifle higher with the head. There. Oh, may you sleep in peace and dream, sweet sister. From I who tread the same path soft behind you.
Come, Roderick. The thing is done.
Oh, wait. Stay a moment. We've not yet affixed the coffin lid. See? I've left it loose so it can be turned back.
No, I beg you.
A last farewell, no more. Look. Is she not beautiful?
Yes, she was very beautiful.
Was? Yes, of course. The look of her confused me. But do you not see it, too? The warm glow of the cheeks, the eyes shut softly, those lips half parted. Does it not seem that she may rise up and speak to us at any moment?
This gruesome place inspires those morbid fancies.
Morbid fancies? That now dead she seems to live, and living seems already dead?
Man, you seek out madness. You court it with your very thoughts.
And if I do, what matters? What value can there be in reason without the hope of life? Dead, you say to me, she is dead. Upon what certainty? Why not with equal reason say instead she lives? And that I, the last of Usher, am the one who is already dead.
I prevailed upon my friend at last to leave that mournful place. And so with grim finality we secured the ebon lid, took up our flickering candles, and departed from the crypt, leaving it alone with its darkness and death. The ponderous portal closed behind us, and then my soul for one brief instant felt the dread and awful meaning of eternity. There followed then a week of such dreary gloom and melancholy that my own spirit quavered at the menace of the nameless thing enshadowed in that house. By perceptible degrees, the living soul of Roderick Usher flickered lower. More ghastly grew his pallor, more tremulous the extremity of his terror. The 8th day following the death of Lady Madeline fell upon the last day of grim and gray October, and brought with it, as the curtains of night descended, the fitful breath of a rising tempest, uneasy gusts of sodden rain, and the sound of sullen thunderous rumbles born of the dim flares of sheet lightning somewhere behind the lowering pall. I retired at a late hour, but found sleep impossible. At length, overpowered by some strange presentiment of evil, I found my reposeful inaction no longer endurable. And so I arose, threw on my clothes in haste, and fell to pacing the floor of my darkened chamber. Then in one instant, a soft sound in the blackness froze my steps in paralysis of terror. The latch of my chamber door was being lifted from without. Who is it? Who is it, I say?
It is I, Roderick.
Oh, Roderick. What are you doing up and about at this hour, in pitch blackness? Wait, let me light the candles.
No, I am quite used to darkness. I heard your footsteps and knew that you must be awake, even as I was. But can it be that you've not seen it?
I don't understand you. I've seen nothing.
Then stay. You shall see it, even as I've seen it for these past 2 hours. Wait. I'll throw open the casement window. There. Look!
It was indeed a tempestuous yet sternly beautiful night, and one wildly singular in its terror and in its beauty. The exceeding density of the clouds which hung so low as to press upon the turrets of the house did not prevent our perceiving the velocity with which they flew careening from all points against one another. We had no glimpse of the moon or stars, but terrible to behold, the under surfaces of the huge cloud masses, as well as all terrestrial objects immediately around us, were glowing in the unnatural light of a faintly luminous and clearly visible phosphorescence, which hung like a shroud about the mansion itself.
You see, my friend, tonight the thing grows bolder, gathers strength from the storm and from the dead soul it's eaten.
No, Roderick, you must not look at this. Here, I shall close this window and pull these curtains. And now, candlelight. Such darkness is the very mother of evil fear. There. Now come, sit here. Suppose I read aloud from some book or another.
As you wish.
I presume it matters little which. Oh, here. Here is a volume of The Mad Tryst by Canning. Will it serve?
As you said, it matters little.
I've always found the scene to be quite entertaining, wherein Ethelred dreams of fighting a dragon. Now, let's see. Oh, yes. Here it is. And so Ethelred waited no longer to hold parley with the hermit who mocked him from inside the hut, but feeling the rain upon his back and fearing the rising of the tempest, uplifted his axe and quickly made a hole in the plankings of the door for his gauntleted hand. And now pulling sturdily, he so cracked and ripped all asunder that the noise of the dry and hollow-sounding wood alarmed and reverberated throughout the forest.
Why do you stop?
Why, that's strange. I fancied I just heard the very sound I read about.
Let us say it was caused by the storm. Pray continue.
Oh, yes, the storm. Of course. But Ethelred, upon entering the door, was amazed to perceive no sign of the evil hermit, but instead a dragon of prodigious and scaly demeanor, which sat on guard before a shield of shining brass. And Ethelred uplifted his axe and struck the head of the dragon, which fell before him with a shriek so horrid and harsh, like whereof was never before. What sound is that?
Sound? The shriek of a dragon, my friend. Read on.
Very well. And now the champion, bethinking himself of the shield of brass, approached across the silver floor to where the shield hung upon the wall. But the shield, not waiting for his coming, loosed and fell upon the silver floor with a mighty great... And, Roderick, I tell you something moves within this house. That sound, it reverberated through the very walls. Can you tell me now you did not hear it?
Hear it now? Oh, yes, I hear it and have heard it. Long moments, hours, many days have I heard it. Yet I dared not speak.
But why?
Do you not know we put her living in the tomb? I tell you now, I heard her first feeble movements in the coffin many, many days ago, and I felt then it mattered little. But now she comes to upbraid me for my haste. And that last dread sound, yes, I heard it, the opening of the metal door to the crypt beneath the house. Now she comes here. Have I not heard her footsteps on the stair? Do I not distinguish the heavy and horrible beating of her heart? Madman that I am, I tell you that she now stands without that door. But even now she opens it.
There in the flickering light of candles, in the gloom and curtained doorway, stood the shrouded body of Lady Madeline. For one shuddering instant she swayed there. Then as Roderick uttered a single piteous cry, she fell upon him in violent and now final death agonies, and bore him to the floor, a corpse. From that chamber and from that mansion, I fled aghast out the massive portal over the causeway into the night. Suddenly there shot along the path a wild light, and I looked back in heightened terror, for the vast house and its shadows were alone behind me. The baleful gleam came from the setting full and blood-red moon, which now shone vividly through a widening crack in the walls of the house itself, and even as I gazed, its vision opened rapidly. There came a fierce breath of the tempest. The entire lunar orb burst at once upon my sight. My brain reeled as I saw the mighty walls rushing asunder. There came a long, tumultuous, shouting sound like the voice of 1,000 waters. And the dark, deep tarn at my feet closed sullenly and silently forever over the pitiful ruins of the ancient house of Usher.
Escape is produced and directed by William N. Robeson, and tonight brought you The Fall of the House of Usher by Edgar Allan Poe. Adapted for radio by Les Crutchfield, with Paul Frees as the narrator, Ramsey Hill as Roderick Usher, and Sheridan Hall as the physician. The special musical score was conceived and conducted by Cy Fuhrer. Next week...
You are the victim of a poorer man, pursued from the west coast of Africa to the west end of London by a dead man's head, which grins at you upside down.
Next week, Escape, with H.G. Wells' gripping story, Pollock and the Poorer Man. Good night, then, until this same time next week, when CBS again offers you Escape. This is CBS, the Columbia Broadcasting System.
Afraid to face the tax collector tomorrow? Fed up with high prices? Want to get away from it all?
We offer you Escape.
You have shipped aboard a South Sea schooner with a ghost of its dead captain in command. A ghost who shoots guns, resurrects the dead, creates a terror from which you cannot escape.
Escape, produced and directed by William N. Robeson, and designed to free you from the four walls of today for a half hour of high adventure.
Tonight we escape across the limitless horizons of the South Seas in Alfred Noy's version of a classic legend of blue water, The Log of the Evening Star.
Tahiti, French Oceania, June the 19th. The sailing schooner Evening Star, reported missing since the 1st of April, today was discovered 100 miles west of here, drifting about in a dead calm, with all sails set, but not a soul on board. The ship, when found, was well stocked with food and water, and all three of her small boats were still present. The sun-baked body of the ship's cat was lying in the bow, and the mess table in the crew's quarters had been laid in preparation for a meal which was never served. Otherwise, everything aboard seemed to be in order, and no solution can be offered to explain the whereabouts of the 12 persons who sailed on her from San Francisco. It appears that the fate of the Evening Star will remain permanently one of the weird and unsolved mysteries of the sea.
My name is Harper. I'm first mate of the South Sea schooner, Evening Star. I'm writing this because I believe it my duty to make some record of the terrible things which have just occurred. Events I can't possibly enter in the ship's log. I can't, of course, be certain that this account will ever come to light, because I'm not likely to live another 24 hours. I guess I should have been able to see it 3 weeks ago, on the day we sailed from San Francisco. But I didn't. I remember I was standing on the deck of the Evening Star, talking to Cato, the cook, while we waited for Captain Burgess to come aboard. We were due to sail in a half hour.
Where you think we go on this trip, Mr. Harper?
Oh, I don't know, Cato. Marquesas first, then Tahiti, maybe on to Australia.
It's good to leave port. It's better on open sea.
You said it.
Will seem very strange this trip without Captain Dayrell.
Yeah. We'd had the same gang together for over 2 years. Some Kanakas, and the crew, you and I and Burgess, Dayrell. Hard to believe he's been dead 4 months now, isn't it?
Yes. Captain Dayrell was proud man. Was good captain. It's too bad he died.
Yeah. Well, Burgess will make a good skipper, too. He was all right as first mate.
Why he no come on board yet?
Captain Burgess? Well, I don't know. Just can't bear to leave that new bride of his, I guess.
You have seen her, Mr. Harper? You know her, maybe?
No, I haven't.
He's been staying down the coast somewhere ever since he got married a couple weeks ago. I don't even know who she is.
New wife, new command. Who is Rocky Man?
Cato, I got a strong hunch you're a sentimentalist down underneath.
Oh, it's possible, Mr. Harper. It has been said.
Hey, Cato, there's Burgess now coming down the pier.
Oh, is somebody with him, too?
Yeah. Guess she's come down to see him off, huh? At least we'll get a chance. No. Well, that's Mrs. Dayrell.
Yeah, maybe she go on ship, too, just like old time.
No. She wouldn't want to sail on the ship her husband died on. I wonder... No.
Mr. Harper, Mr. Harper, look. 3 birds fly around the mast.
Yeah. I see him, Cato.
It's very bad sign. Very bad.
Well, I don't know what you mean by that,
Mr. Harper, is everything in order?
Oh, right, Captain Burgess. We can sail any time you want. How are you, Miss Dayrell?
Why, just fine.
Dayrell? Oh, yes, of course. Mr. Harper, even though you're already acquainted with the lady, I'd like to present my wife.
Your wife?
We were married 2 weeks ago, Mr. Harper. I'm sailing with you on this trip.
Well, that's fine. I'm glad to have you aboard, Burgess, I mean. Well, it'll be like old times.
Old times, Mr. Harper?
Well, I mean, all of us together and everything. Well, congratulations to both of you.
Thank you, Mr. Harper. Look, I brought Satan along, too. He wouldn't miss this trip for anything.
Yeah, he's right at home. How are you, Satan? Would you like to look over the clearance papers, Captain Burgess? I got them right here.
No, thank you, Mr. Harper. I'll assume they're in order. We'll sail as soon as as soon as my wife's trunk comes aboard.
Yes, sir.
I'll be in the cabin if you want anything.
Cato, would you take Satan and give him something to eat? I think he's hungry.
Yes, Missy. I'll take him right now. Come on, Kitty. We'll go find something to eat.
Well, Mr. Harper, we're all together again.
That's right, Miss Burgess. We've even got Satan on board.
Yes. All of us, except my husband.
Your husband is down in the cabin, Mrs. Burgess. You mean we're all here except Captain Dayrell? Well, once out at sea, things straightened out a little, the way they always do. After a while, we got so we could think of her as Mrs. Burgess instead of Mrs. Dayrell. And after that, it wasn't so awkward. Captain Burgess stayed to himself quite a bit. But all in all, it was a fairly pleasant 3 weeks. Up until yesterday afternoon. I was standing in the bow, smoking, watching a school of dolphins skip out of the water when Mrs. Burgess came up behind me.
Mr. Harper, I wonder if I could speak to you a moment.
Of course, Miss Burgess.
I'm terribly frightened.
You're frightened? What about?
Is he around anywhere?
Is who around?
My husband. I don't want him to hear me.
What? Now, Mrs. Burgess, I can't listen to
No,
that.
please. You're the only one I can turn to. We're all in terrible danger, you know.
Danger? What are you talking about?
Mr. Harper, do you have any reason to think my husband may be not quite himself?
Not quite himself? In what way?
Do you think he may be insane?
Of course not.
Yes, but you don't understand.
I understand one thing, Mrs. Burgess. I'd better get back to my duties.
I quite agree with you, Mr. Harper.
Captain Burgess.
I believe you really should stay in the cabin, my dear. It's far too windy for you up here in the bow.
Yes. I was just going. I'm going right now.
She has a rather delicate throat, Mr. Harper. Catches cold easily. Used to be a singer, you know.
Yes, sir, I know.
Oh, yes. Yes, of course you do. Well, don't pay too much attention to anything my wife might say, Mr. Harper. She's upset. Just don't pay any attention to her.
Something was wrong, all right. No question of that. But I couldn't figure what. I couldn't think of any terrible danger. It seemed more likely it was Mrs. Burgess who was not quite herself. Well, anyway, the whole business didn't make much sense, so I shrugged it off and forgot about it. For a couple of hours. It was just at dusk. Most of the crew was below decks. I was sitting on the after hatch, scratching the ears of Satan, the ship's cat. The sun was just dropping past the horizon, and Satan was purring, meowing. Everything was pretty peaceful. Until I heard those voices coming from Captain Burgess' cabin.
The way he acted, you told him.
No, really, I didn't. I wouldn't tell anybody. You know I wouldn't.
It wasn't a matter of eavesdropping. They'd even forgotten anyone might hear them.
You don't mean it. You're only saying it.
I mean it all right.
Then you don't care about me. If he were alive, I'd still be with him.
You can say that when you know about the thing that's here on board with us?
Oh, it's your imagination. I told you that.
Imagination, huh? Is that what you told Harper? Is it?
No. Don't!
Answer me!
Let go.
Look out, Satan.
This is what he wants me to do.
Captain Burgess! Captain Burgess!
Yes, Mr. Harper. What is it?
I wondered if you wanted Cato to bring your dinner here to the cabin, sir.
No, Mr. Harper. I'll eat at the wheel.
Yes,
Going
sir.
aft now. Tell him to bring it up right away.
All right, Captain Burgess.
Mr. Harper, listen carefully. You've got to help me.
All right. How?
Meet me on the afterdeck as soon as it's dark, in an hour if I can get away from him.
Did you want something else, Mr. Harper?
No, sir. Nothing else, Captain.
And suppose you go about your duties.
But your wife, sir. Doesn't she want something to eat?
She does not, Mr. Harper. She's indisposed. She does not wish to be disturbed. Is that perfectly clear?
Now I was convinced that there was danger aboard the Evening Star. I had a feeling that something deadly was stirring itself and coming awake below decks. The first night shadows were bringing a terrible, threatening tenseness. I felt that I ought to scream to keep from laughing. Yet there was nothing to laugh about. I was quite certain that if I hadn't knocked on that door, Captain Burgess would have killed his wife. But why? Well, I hadn't found any sensible answer by the time Cato brought a tray of food to my cabin.
Good evening, Mr. Harper.
Oh, put it there on the chart table, will you?
Thank you, Mr. Harper.
How's it look on deck, Cato?
Oh, that... I do not understand you, Mr. Harper.
I mean, well, is it dark yet?
Oh, it's get dark soon, I think. And I think, too, tonight is not good night.
What do you mean by that?
Is something bad on board ship, Mr. Harper. I no understand what. I no see it. I no hear it. But inside, I sense it all the time grow bigger.
Well, that's your imagination, Cato.
Is imagination bother you too, Mr. Harper? This morning, 3 birds fly over ship together. All day I burn much incense. Again, tonight, 3 birds fly over ship together.
Well, what about it?
Is a sign of death, Mr. Harper. Tonight on this ship, somebody die. You like something else, maybe?
No. No, Cato, that's all.
Thank you, Mr. Harper. Good night, please.
So, I wasn't the only one on board who was feeling something was wrong. I wondered if Cato knew any more of what was back of it than I did. You couldn't tell by looking at him. He could be busting with joy or scared half to death. And that face of his would never show either one. Anyway, 10 minutes later, I was out on the dark fantail, watching the moon cast shadows from the rigging. After a while, I heard her calling my name.
Mr. Harper! Mr. Harper!
Here I am, Miss Burgess.
Oh, thank heaven.
Where's the captain?
I don't know. He didn't come back to the cabin.
All right. Now, suppose you tell me what it's all about and talk fast.
I don't know what it's about, Mr. Harper. Not really. I only know that my husband has gone insane.
Now, you told me that earlier. What makes you think so?
He tried to kill me.
Yes, I know. Why?
Because of last night. He came into my cabin and woke me up. He was trembling, white as a sheet.
But why?
He said he'd just seen Captain Dayrell on deck.
Dayrell, but he's...
Yes, he died 4 months ago. I told him he imagined it. But he keeps talking about it. He says Captain Dayrell has come back to punish us.
Punish you? For what?
Well, for not waiting longer to get married. Oh, you've got to do something.
Well, if I use force, Mrs. Burgess, it's the same as mutiny.
Yes, but he's insane. He may do anything.
Yes, you're right there. I don't know, but what...
Wait. There by the mast. Look!
It's Dayrell.
No! Oh, no!
There wasn't any doubt about it. The moonlight behind him threw his shadow toward us on the deck. And he had on that tall, peaked cap and the white muffler he'd always worn when he was alive. He didn't move, didn't say anything. Just stood there, looking at us.
No! Please!
Miss Burgess!
No!
Before I could stop her, Miss Burgess turned and ran for the rail and jumped overboard. One of the Kanakas saw her, grabbed a life preserver, and went in after her. I ran to the longboat hanging in the davits at the port rail.
What happened, Mr. Hopper?
I don't know. Let's get this boat in the water. Mrs. Burgess is overboard along with one of the boys. Did you see anything on deck?
What I see, I don't believe.
All right, come on, move. Here, take the oars. Schooner's not got much steerage way, so they shouldn't be far astern. Come on, come on.
Hey, somebody's shooting on deck.
All right, never mind. Keep rowing, will you? We'll find out about it later. We've got to pick up those two before they go under. We didn't find him, though. The shooting on board stopped after a while. We rowed around for a half hour or more. We couldn't find a trace of him. Finally, there wasn't anything else to do. So I told the Kanaka to pull for the schooner. We were about 10 yards away from the side when
Hey, Mr. Hopper, look!
I looked up at the rail, and there stood Dayrell. He didn't say anything, just stood there. He had a gun in his hand. Dayrell, what are you trying to do? Grab that oar, Joe. We gotta get away from him. Joe, I said... Oh! We were drifting away from the side of the schooner. I felt a sharp pain in my shoulder where the bullet had hit. But the Kanaka was worse off. Blood was running down over his face from a hole in the center of his forehead. That's when I passed out. When I came to, it was broad daylight. The boat I was lying in was bumping up against the side of the schooner. And Captain Burgess was calling down to me from the rail.
Mr. Harper, are you alive?
I'm all right, Captain Burgess.
It's been a horrible night, Mr. Harper. It's all right now.
Can you help me aboard, sir?
Yes. Can you lift up your arms?
Yes, sir. Here.
Easy now. Cato, give me a hand here. Careful now. All right. There. It's a pretty bad wound.
I'm kind of weak. Guess I lost a lot of blood. Sorry about your wife, sir. We couldn't find her.
I know. There's only 3 of us left alive on board now, Mr. Harper. You and I and Cato here.
What happened?
You may not believe it. It was Captain Dayrell.
Yes, I saw him.
Got a hold of the ship's guns and killed the whole crew. Locked me in the cabin while he did.
But he's dead, Captain Burgess. We buried him at sea 4 months ago.
No matter. He's come back now, Mr. Harper. It's his ship, the Evening Star is, and he wants it.
No, it's not possible. The man is dead.
That's what his wife... my wife said when I told her I'd seen him. Said I was crazy. I think she knows better now.
Maybe we could search the ship.
Cato and I went through it at daylight this morning. We found nothing.
Well, there has to be some explanation.
There is. The wicked shall be punished for their sins.
What do you mean by that?
Nothing, Mr. Harper. Nothing at all. Well, I was his friend. Always thought a lot of Captain Dayrell. You know that, don't you, Mr. Harper?
Yes, sir.
It's all right now in the daylight. But he'll come back tonight as soon as it's dark. It's only the 3 of us now to face him, Mr. Harper. 4, if you count Satan. And I'm thinking there's more than one Satan on board this ship.
They helped me to the bunk in my cabin and left me there. That was about noon today. I could tell by the look on Captain Burgess' face that, well, it was pretty certain I wasn't going to live. That's why I decided to write this account. Try to set down everything that happened. In a way, this is the real log of the Evening Star, even if it doesn't make much sense. Anyway, right after sundown, Cato brought me in a tray of food.
How you feel now, Mr. Harper?
Oh, I guess not too bad, Cato.
You like something to eat, maybe?
Later, maybe. You can leave it there, huh?
Yes, but you eat now. Later, I think we all dead.
Has anything happened yet?
It's not dark yet. When it's dark, then he come.
Yeah. Where's Captain Burgess?
I no see him. He's hide somewhere, I think.
Cato, all those who were killed last night, what happened to their bodies?
He's buried in sea. This morning I helped Captain Burgess. You like something else, maybe?
No thanks, Cato.
Then I go burn much incense, make peace with many gods. For last time now, I think. Goodbye, Prince.
I lit the lamp over the bunk, and I lay there for a long time. I don't know how long. I didn't know where Captain Burgess and Cato were, or what they were doing. I kept waiting to hear the sound of shooting. Kept lying there, dreading it. And then gradually, I began to realize that somebody was singing on board, way off. And I knew that voice. I'd heard it somewhere before, singing the same song. It was Mrs. Burgess.
Mr. Harper! Mr. Harper, do you hear it?
I hear it, Captain Burgess. What in the name of heaven's going on?
It's her. She's come back, too. She's in there with him now in the cabin.
Oh, that's impossible. She drowned last night. She's dead.
They're both dead, but they've come back. They're in the cabin now, and she's singing for him. She never sang for me, Mr. Harper, but now she's singing for him. Come, Mr. Harper, you've got to help me. I tell you, they're both in the cabin right now.
Yes, sir. I don't know if...
Oh, you're too weak. I forgot. I'll go alone. I'll stop them somehow. I've got to stop them.
I pulled myself up in the bunk and I put my feet on the floor. Weak or not, one way or another, I had to get to that cabin. I managed to stagger outside onto the deck. Captain Burgess had disappeared somewhere, and there was no sign of anything moving there in the moonlight, except Satan the cat, who came up and rubbed against my ankles. The singing had stopped, and the ship was quiet. I made my way forward, and finally was looking through the skylight, down into the captain's cabin. One lamp was lit. Its light fell on the hunched figure that strode about the cabin, cap pulled down low, hands sunk in his pockets, all the old familiar gestures. It was Captain Dayrell, and he was alone. I crouched there with the skylight, shivering from the night wind and from the terror inside of me, watching that awful figure. After a while, it walked over and stood beside the phonograph. Then I realized where that voice had come from. Dayrell had always been crazy about his wife singing, and he'd made a lot of records of her voice. He was playing one of them now. The song went on, and he paced back and forth. I still couldn't figure it out. And then, for just a moment, the white muffler fell back from his throat, and for the first time, I saw Captain Dayrell's face. I'm not sure how I managed to stumble back here to my cabin. I'm writing this now just as rapidly as I can. I may be interrupted at any minute. If that happens, I'll try to slip it behind the map here on the cabin wall in the hopes that it may be... I can hear him coming now. Whoever may read this, please try to get word to my family in San Francisco. Yes? Come in.
I thought you might be asleep, Mr. Harper.
How could anybody sleep, Captain Burgess, as long as Dayrell's loose on board?
Yes, that's true, Mr. Harper. Should have seen him down there in the cabin. And her, too. He was walking up and down, as proud as ever. And she was singing for him, just like she used to. You should have seen him.
I did see him.
He never sang for me like that, not it. You saw him? Did he look natural? Just as always?
Captain Burgess, it was you I saw, dressed up in Dayrell's clothes that were stored in the sea chest there in the cabin.
Oh, no, Mr. Harper, you're mistaken. It was his spirit come back to punish us.
It was you all the time, you who fired those shots last night. You're insane.
That's what she said, too. That's because he told her.
Because it's the truth.
Now he's been talking to you.
He's talked to nobody. He's dead. And you've never seen him except in your own guilty conscience. Just what is that guilt, Captain Burgess? Did you kill him?
Oh, don't! Don't say that, Mr. Harper. I was his friend. I thought a lot of him, and Mrs. Dayrell, too. Everybody knew we were friends. Did he tell you that?
You're completely mad.
Don't say that, Mr. Harper. I've got to save you from him. He talks to you, and you're weak, and you can't run away. I've got to save you.
Burgess, put on that gun. Don't!
Don't! Save you! Got to go someplace where he can't find us, Mr. Harper. Go up deck. I'll take you, Mr. Harper. Come on. Don't worry. I'll save you from him. It's his ship, everything on it, and he wants it back. We've got to give it to him, Mr. Harper. Got to let him have it. Got to get off the ship.
Captain Burgess, what has happened?
It's you! Dayrell! Go away!
It's no Captain Dayrell. It's me, Cato.
You can't stop us, Dayrell. I'll show you.
No!
You see, Mr. Harper? I killed him. Dayrell. Now he can't stop us. There he is again. There by the mast. See him, Mr. Harper? He's coming this way. He won't stop. Got to get away. Got to save you, Mr. Harper. Here's the rail. I'll help you. There! See? He's gone, Dayrell. Now, there's just me. And I'm going too. You see, it's all yours now, the Evening Star, just like you wanted it. No, stay back. I'm going.
Escape is produced and directed by William N. Robeson, and tonight brought you The Log of the Evening Star by Alfred Noyes. Adapted for radio by Les Crutchfield, with Jack Webb as Harper, Alan Reed as Captain Burgess, Gail Page as Mrs. Burgess, Louis Van Rooten as Cato and the Cat, and Pinto Kalvig as the Kanaka. Music is conceived and conducted by Wilbur Hatch. Next week...
When you're tired out from doing nothing all weekend, when Blue Monday stares you in the face, next week at this time when your problems seem just too much for you, we offer you Escape.
Next week, we bring you another exciting story of high adventure. Good night, then, until this same time next week, when once again we offer you Escape. This is CBS, the Columbia Broadcasting System.
Getting impatient for baseball season to start? Have a touch of spring fever? Want to get away from it all? We offer you Escape.
You are in mid-ocean, aboard a Jinx ship. Already 9 men have died. And you know that some malignant force is aimed at you from which you cannot escape.
Escape, designed to free you from the four walls of today for a half hour of high adventure.
Tonight, we escaped to the North Atlantic in the year 1900, and to a sailing ship whose very name struck dread in sailors' hearts, as Joseph Conrad told it in his famous story, The Brute.
You could never tell it just by looking at her, proud and strong and beautiful on the outside. You couldn't see the black heart inside of her, and you'd never know she'd killed at least a dozen men and maybe more. But I knew her. Knew her for the murdering she-devil she was. I saw her the day she killed her first one, and I was there too when she finally made her big mistake and killed the wrong person. But that was a long time later. Oh, she had a name all right, but after that first day, her first killing, nobody but the family ever used it again. Everyone else from that day on would look at her half afraid and half snarling, and they called her the Brute. I remember I was 14 the day my father took me down to the South Thames boatyard to watch the launching of the ship. My brother Charlie was there, of course, 8 years older than me and very proud of his one gold stripe, now that he'd been made an officer on the Apps line. Charlie and Father were talking. I just stood and listened to them and didn't say much of anything myself.
Look at her, Dad. Ever see a ship in your life with lines like that? I bet she'll outsail any clipper in the China trade.
Well, that remains to be seen, Charlie. How soon are they going to launch her?
Any minute now. Oh, I'd give a lot to be sailing on her, instead of on the Malcolm Apps.
Well, the Malcolm's a good ship, son. As good a ship as any the Apps family owns.
Oh, I'm not kicking. I'm glad enough to be through apprenticeship and get my commission. But even at that, I'd almost rather be a bosun on this ship than third mate on the Malcolm.
I understand that Colchester's to be her captain.
Yes, that's right. Oldest commander with the Apps and Sons line. Look at the size of her, Dad. She's a full 2,000 tons.
Less half a ton, Charlie. Oh, good morning, Mr. Jermyn.
Mr. Wilmot. Hello, Ned.
How do you do, sir?
No, Charlie, she came to 1,999 and a half when we measured her up.
Well, 2,000 tons or not, Mr. Jermyn, you'll never build a better ship than this one.
I don't know, Charlie. I built her the way Mr. Ops wanted her. She's big and she's stout, but I don't know.
And what's your reason for saying that, sir?
No reason that makes any sense. I've had the devil's own time with her. Cabin doors jamming when they shouldn't. Edge covers that wouldn't fit after they'd been measured up. Blocks fouling for no reason at all. I don't know, Mr. Wilmot. But if she were a human being, I'd say that maybe she's insane.
Oh, come now. You've been working too hard, Mr. Jermyn. Better take a vacation now that she's finished.
Well, I could certainly use...
I say, that's Maggie Colchester up there, the captain's niece. Is she going to do the christening?
That's right, Charlie. And I'd better get down below now. My own men are going to knock the stays loose and let her slide down into the water.
Well, good luck, Mr. Jermyn.
Thanks, Mr. Wilmot. Come on board for the celebration after she's launched. Bring the boy.
Fine, thank you. We shall be there.
They'll let it go any minute now. Dad, I'm going to sail on that ship someday.
Oh, you'll probably sail on a lot of Apps line ships before you're through, Charlie.
Look, they're giving Maggie the champagne now, and she's going to christen it.
Yes, listen.
I christen the Apps family.
The Apps family. So that's what they're naming her, eh?
All right, men. Knock out the stairs. Let her go.
Look, Dad, she's starting to move. There she goes.
Yes, well, look at that speed. I never saw it. Jermyn, look out!
Good Lord, he fell right into the ways and she... She went over him.
He didn't fall. The timber rolled off the deck and knocked him under.
She slid right over him. Mr. Jermyn, the man who built her.
She's lost in blood, if that means anything. She's a brute and a murderess now, Charlie. Still think you'd like to sail on her?
It was an accident. It doesn't mean anything.
Perhaps not.
I'll sail on her someday, sooner or later. I will sail on her.
Well, the way things worked out, I was the one to sail on her first instead of Charlie. He'd gone on out to the Orient aboard the Malcolm. And 6 months later, when I started my apprenticeship, I found the company had assigned me to report to Captain Colchester on the Apps family, or the Brute, as everybody was calling it privately. There was some kind of mix-up in the sailing orders, and by the time I came on board, a tug already had a line on the big sailing ship and was starting to ease her stern first out into the channel.
All right now, ease ahead there. Pick up the slack.
Captain Colchester was at the taffrail shouting orders to the tug captain, and the mates were forward somewhere, handling the check line.
You've got the slack now. Haul away.
I stood at the waist, waiting for a chance to report in, and watching a young fellow about my own age, who was doing something or other up aloft on the mizzenmast above me. The tug had drawn the line out taut, but the ship hadn't started to move yet.
You've got no way on her yet. Turn your engine up to full speed.
The tug was churning the water to froth, and the hawser was tight as a bowstring, but we still didn't move.
Keep her up. Hold that on first throttle.
Then suddenly the ship gave a lurch and started back like a bucking horse. The men forward had no chance to ease the check cable, and a second later it snapped. The ship plunged on back and then sheered over to bring up with a smash against the pierhead that knocked me sprawling on the deck. And at that moment, the lad who'd been working aloft on the mast crashed down onto the deck not 10 feet away from me. And he lay there without moving.
Give a hand up here on my waist, mate. Young Hawkins just fell out of the tops. Hey. That's too bad.
Is he dead, Captain Colchester?
He's dead, boy. You get a hold of yourself. Don't stand there trembling. You never seen anybody die before?
Yes, sir. On the day they launched this ship.
Oh, Jermaine, eh? You're young Ned Wilmot, I suppose, the new apprentice.
Yes, sir.
And no doubt you may have heard the ship called by an unpleasant name once in a while.
Yes, sir. The Brute.
Well, you'll be kind enough to remember while you're aboard that her name is the Apps family, and she's had her share of accidents, the same as any other ship. Is that quite clear?
Yes, sir.
Now get along forward with you and stow your gear away on the forecastle. You'll take over young Hawkins' duties for the time being.
Yes, sir. I sailed aboard the Brute for the next 4 years and watched her kill 9 men during the time. We got so we'd try to outguess her, try to figure how she'd do it the next time. But no matter what we think, we never were right. And it wasn't only the killing, it was everything. Most ships have little ways all their own, and you'll learn about them and allow for them. But not her. She was like a crazy woman. You never knew what she'd do next. I remember once off the Gold Coast, she ran before a gale for 2 days as pretty as you please, and then broached to twice the same afternoon, flung the helmsman clean over the wheel the first time, and the second time swamped herself fore and aft and split out every stitch of canvas. And after we got the decks cleaned up, we found 1 seaman had gone overboard. He was her 5th, I guess it was, or maybe the 6th. Oh, she was beautiful, the Apps family was. Big and proud and beautiful. And along with it, a killer. A black-hearted, sea-going brute. My brother Charlie was on the China run all that time. First on the Malcolm and later on the Lucy Apps. But we never happened to hit port on the same time. Finally, the time of my apprenticeship was up. We boomed into London at the end of the trip. I went before the board for my papers. I guess they figured anybody who could stay alive for 4 years on the Brute must be a seaman. Anyway, I passed, and Mr. Apps handed me my sailing orders along with the commission. I was assigned as 3rd mate to Captain Colchester on the Apps family.
Well, congratulations, Ned. Glad you're going to stay with us.
Thanks, Captain Colchester.
You've been a hard-working apprentice, and I've no doubt but you'll be a good officer.
In fact, we have a man on board who'll make sure of that.
Why? What do you mean, Captain?
Got a new first mate on this trip. Come in, Charlie.
Charlie?
Well, hello there, youngster. I say, you've been doing a bit of growing the last 5 years.
Charlie, I didn't even know you were in port.
Been in for a week down country, though. I hear you fooled the board.
Careful, man. You're talking about your own third mate.
Yes, so they tell me. And you'll be jumping lively on this trip, me boy.
Easy, easy. Don't forget, I know this ship and you don't.
And I'll learn it quick enough. Been wanting the chance for a long time. And between us, I think we can even break this jinx.
Lads, there'll be no talk of a jinx on this trip. At least not in the cabin, as long as Maggie's going along.
Maggie? Who's Maggie?
Ask your brother. I think he's the one who talked her into the trip. Although she claims it's for her health. I'll leave you two to get acquainted. We'll be about 10 days loading if you've got any plans.
What's he talking about, Charlie? Who's Maggie?
His niece, Maggie Colchester. You remember her, the girl who christened the ship?
Of course. Ollie,
well, hasn't Dad told you where I've been spending shore leaves for the last year and a half?
No, Charlie, I didn't know anything about it.
Well, then let me show you something. Here. Now, if I have my way, Maggie will be wearing this before the trip's over. Here, take a look.
Blimey, that's all right.
Yes, I bought it in Cape Town. It's a blue-white diamond set in platinum.
Is it big enough to go on a finger?
Oh, it's big enough, all right. And that's where it's going if I can talk her into it.
And who's going to talk who into what, Charlie?
Maggie, I was, saying that, I hoped I could talk you into going ashore for dinner with me.
Oh, where are you now? You big liar.
Oh, Maggie, this is my brother, Ned. Ned, this is Maggie.
How do you do? And are you one of the officers, too?
I'm the new third mate.
Well, I certainly hope you're more truthful than your brother.
Maggie.
Whose invitation to dinner I am accepting with pleasure.
Oh, really?
See you both later.
All right, you are. About an hour.
Charlie, she's lovely.
Well, she's more than that, Ned. She's everything as far as I'm concerned.
Well, in that case, good luck. I hope you get her.
Well, we'll see about that. Anyway, with Maggie aboard, we've got to make sure this jinx ship stays on good behavior for once.
It'll be the first time if she does.
And it's the first time we've had both the Wilmots on board together. We'll tame her down, Ned. We'll make her calm and peaceful as an old workhorse. Just you wait and see if we don't.
And the strange part of it was, he was right. We stood out past Gravesend and made the passage to the China coast in 121 days of the finest weather you could ever hope to meet. And for the first time in her bloody life, the old ship settled down and sailed herself as neat as you please. Charlie and I had talked about it sometimes when Maggie wasn't around, and he'd always laugh and say the brute knew when she'd met her match that she didn't dare try to buck the two of us. But I was more ready to give the credit to Maggie, to think maybe she'd charm the old murderess the way she'd charmed all the rest of us. From the second day out, Maggie was the secret darling of every man on board. She was all over the ship, here, there, and everywhere, with red tam and her bright blue eyes, never still a minute, and having the time of her life. If she'd come along for her health, she'd found it before we passed Gravesend. We raised a storm on the passage back and ran 4 days in a heavy gale. I stood by and held my breath, ready for anything, and nothing happened. The old lady, App's family, held up her head and sailed along like a seagull. Any time before, she'd have buried her gunwale in the quartering seas, but now, all the water she shipped you could put in a teacup. 109 days from Hong Kong, we raised the Dungness Light, and early the next morning picked up a tug off Sheerness for the long tow upriver to London. The ship followed along on the tow line like a puppy on a leash, and we moved slowly up the river past Gravesend. All of us were glad to be home, but Maggie most of all, I think, because she'd never been at sea so long before. I had to smile at the way she danced around in the bows, picking out one landmark after another as we came to them, sometimes standing up on the spare anchor we'd taken in on the foredeck in order to get a better look at the riverbanks ahead. She wasn't wearing the ring yet, but I knew she was going to and was only teasing Charlie as long as possible.
What's wrong, Ned? That tug stopped her engines.
Collision up ahead in the channel, Charlie. Looks like a yawl and a schooner fouled together.
Oh, yes. Well, looks like they're clearing it up now. Guess we can move again in a couple of minutes. Maggie, why don't you go on the afterdeck? You're on the way up forward there.
Oh, I'm all right, Charlie. Stop worrying. We're almost home.
Better save your orders for the crew, Charlie. She outranks you.
Oh, I'll take orders from her any day. Yes. We are almost home, Ned. We've had a lucky voyage.
It's the first halfway peaceful trip I've ever made in the old brute.
Oh, I told you we'd tame her down. She's turned over a new leaf, Ned.
Well, it won't last long if she keeps on sheering off there and drifting back down the channel.
Huh? Oh, yes. We're heading straight for those fishing smacks.
Better have the tug start up and hold a taut line on her. I've seen her do this before.
Yes.
Ahoy, the tug! Take up the slack and get her straight in the channel. Hold her against the current.
Any other ship would have held steady for the 2 or 3 minutes we'd stopped, but not the old Epps family. And now, when the tug tightened up in the hawser, pulling at an angle across her bows, she wouldn't respond, wouldn't budge. The old girl wanted her own way. She was just as stubborn as ever.
Ahoy, the tug! We're still drifting. Open up to full speed.
Confound her. Never saw a ship act like this.
The heavy hawser was pulled so tight it was humming, and Tug's pedals with her engines full whipped up the water like a mill race. And then it happened. The heavy towing chock tore loose from the deck. The hawser began sliding across the bow, ripping out rail stanchions like matchsticks. Then I thought it was going to sweep under the flukes of the spare anchor, the anchor that Maggie was standing on.
Maggie! Get off that anchor! Look out!
She tried to jump clear, but she was too late. The great anchor had tipped up on its side, clasped her about the waist like a monstrous arm of steel. It had carried her with it, and swung down and over and smashed against the side of the ship.
She went into the water. Take charge of the deck, Ned. I'm going in after her.
Ned, was that Maggie?
Yes, sir. She's overboard, Captain Colchester.
Maggie. Oh, the dirty, murdering brute. Now it's women she's killing.
Let go the port anchor! Hold the ship as she is and get the boats over!
I hadn't told Charlie, and I didn't say anything about it to Captain Colchester. But I stood there, and I knew it wasn't any use. Because I'd seen the way the heavy anchor had carried her over, and then swung in to smash her against the bow before it dropped her into the water. And I'd seen the way that water beneath the bow was all colored red. They found her at late afternoon when the tide turned, and she floated clear of one of the mooring buoys. And the next morning, we tied up in the London docks. The men had been happy at coming into their home port, but now they remembered how she'd been happy too, their own darling. I'd never before seen a crew leave a ship so quietly, and some of them, when they reached the wharf, turned back and cursed her under their breath. Finally, it was only Charlie and I, alone on the quarterdeck, and Captain Colchester was below, somewhere in the cabin.
She never wore it, Ned. The ring. She never wore it.
But she would have, Charlie. I know she meant to. She was just having a little fun with you, that's all.
With all of us on board, why did the brute have to go for Maggie? Why?
I guess there's not much answer for that.
She was everything I wanted. Everything.
Yes, Charlie. I know.
I talked her into making the voyage. It was my idea.
It's no good, Charlie, this kind of thinking. I guess you know that.
I don't know. She's everything I wanted.
Charlie,
Oh, Mr. Wilmot.
Over here, Captain.
I'm going ashore. The shipkeeper's come aboard now. The two of you are free to go whenever you like.
Thank you, sir.
Charlie, nothing. I'm resigning command in the morning. I'll never set foot on board her again as long as I live.
I feel the same way, sir.
Well, come into the company office in a day or two and sign out for the log. Good day, gentlemen.
Charlie, we'd better go ashore, too. We're done here.
Yes, I suppose we are.
I'll arrange to have our gear picked up later. There's no use of... Captain, look out! Missed him! But yardarm off the mainmast. Fell right behind him.
Ah, you missed me, you murdering brute! And that was your last chance, too!
Ned, that yard was made fast at Dungeness. And now it falls out of the tops with the ship lying still at the wharf.
Yes, Charlie. Come on. Let's go ashore.
Wasn't the devil satisfied for one trip? Is there no way of stopping her? How many more does she want to kill?
Charlie?
Oh, Ned. Ned, take me home.
Charlie was 10 years older by the time we reached home, and it was 2 weeks before he'd do anything more than sit in his room and stare at the wall, saying nothing. Captain Colchester carried out his threat and resigned from the company the morning after we docked, and I filed my application for a transfer. The Apps family was reloaded and ready to sail, but she stayed on lying at the wharf with nobody to take her out. And that's the way things stood for 2 weeks, until one morning a bombshell dropped.
Hello, Ned.
Charlie, I wondered where you went this morning.
And I left the house early.
How do you feel?
Fine. Ned, Mr. Apps tells me you've applied for a transfer. Another ship.
Well, yes, I did, as a matter of fact. You saw old man Apps?
Yes, I stopped in at the office this morning. Ned, it's up to you, of course, but I hope you'll change your mind.
Not a chance.
The ship sails tomorrow morning.
Oh, so they finally found somebody crazy enough to take her out?
Yes, they did. Me.
You? You're going to skip her, the brute?
That's right, Ned.
But I
it's a short voyage, North Atlantic run. Be awfully glad to have you along. Somebody I can depend on if you feel like signing on again.
Charlie!
Of course, it's up to you.
All right, Charlie. I'll sign on again. Be glad to. We boomed out past the Sheerness Light and headed north, hugging a lee shore in a stiff breeze. The ship drove ahead as steady as a barge, with scarcely a roll or a quiver. But in spite of the smooth and easy way she handled, I couldn't help feeling uneasy. I could sense the black spirit of her brooding somewhere down inside, mocking and taunting us with her bloody memories, and waiting for a new chance. By nightfall, we were running hard in along the Kettling coast, where those rocky headlands break at intervals out of the shelving sandy beaches. The onshore wind held steady in our quarter, and the sun sank down behind the land some 3 miles away. It wasn't quite full dark yet when Charlie sent for me. I came up to where he was standing alone near the wheel.
Is that you, Ned?
Right, Charlie. Bosun said you wanted to see me.
Yes. I did send for you, Ned. Hold her steady as she goes, close to the wind.
Aye, sir.
I've been standing here, thinking about Maggie, Ned. How she'd scrambled around over the decks, making friends with everybody, having the time of her life.
Charlie, you've got to stop it.
No, I'm all right. I like to think about her.
It's this ship and all the memories around it. It's what I was afraid of.
No, it's all right. Ned, I want you to take charge of the crew and give an order. Of course, you'll question the order, but you'll carry it out anyway. Do you understand?
What's the order, Charlie?
Have all hands prepare to abandon ship.
What? But why? There's nothing wrong.
Mr. Wilmot, it is not an officer's place to question an order by the captain. You'll do as you're told.
Yes, sir.
You can give the order now, Mr. Wilmot.
Charlie, I can't let you... Very well, Captain. All hands on deck! Stand by the boats! Prepare to abandon ship!
All right, helmsman. Find your place in the boats. I'll take over the wheel.
Aye, sir.
You don't know what you're doing, Charlie. We're in no danger. There's no reason to abandon ship.
You're always in danger aboard this black-hearted brute. I'll put on the quarter now. You can get the boats in the water when she yields. Hurry on.
Steady! Going on the quarter!
Easy on. All right. Now.
All hands! Lower boats!
We shouldn't have any trouble running ashore to that beach there at the south.
Hey, what about you?
I'll hold her steady until everybody's clear. You'd better go over the side. Your boat's standing there.
Oh, no, not until you do. I'm staying with you, Charlie.
Don't be a fool, Ned. I'm doing this alone.
No, Charlie, not while I'm here.
Mr. Wilmot, you will abandon ship and take charge of the boats in the water, and that's an order.
Charlie, I can't...
Mr. Wilmot!
Very well, Captain.
That's the spirit, lad. Learn to obey orders and step lively. And you'll be a seaman yet. Good luck, Ned.
Thanks, Charlie. We'll stand by for you in the boat.
Of course, lad. Fine. Bye.
I slipped over the gunwale and dropped down into the boat that trailed alongside on a line from the rail. I'd hardly hit the bottom when the line slackened. I knew Charlie had cut us loose from the ship. He was alone on her now, alone in the night sea, with a black brute.
Look, sir, look. He's laid it over, away from the wind.
Charlie had put the helm over hard. With a terrible shudder of her dark sails and a smother of white foam from her bows, the great ship heeled about in a sharp turn and then began to drive ahead like some mad thing before the wind. Straight before the wind and straight toward the shore.
Look, sir, the rocks on the headland. She's going to smash herself.
Faster and faster she plunged ahead through the weltering seas, faster and faster on the back of the gale, while the black-hearted spirit of her screamed in the ratlines.
Look, sir, the rocks. What in the name of heaven is he going to do?
And now, for one long instant, she hung poised at the top of a plunge and then drove smashing downward onto the rocks. We stood by, as close as we dared, for 3 hours, while the killer ship pounded herself to bits in the surging sea. But we didn't find my brother Charlie. And from the first minute, I knew we wouldn't. Because just before I'd left the ship, there by the helm, in the light of the binnacle lamp, I'd seen the thing he was holding clenched tight in his hard brown fist. It was a tiny platinum ring set with a blue-white diamond.
Escape is produced and directed by Norman MacDonald, and tonight brought you The Brute by Joseph Conrad, adapted for radio by Les Crutchfield, featuring Dan O'Herlihy as Ned Wilmot and Eric Rolfe as Charlie Wilmot, with Nina Cowden as Maggie, Jeff Corey as Captain Colchester, Wilms Herbert as German, and Parley Bear as the father. Music is conceived and conducted by Wilbur Hatch. Next week.
You are far into the remote hill country of Afghan, caught in an ambush by the fierce Pathan tribes, trapped in a hopeless fight from which there seems no escape.
Next week, we escape with Rudyard Kipling's gripping story, The Drums of the Fore and Aft. Good night, then, until the same time next week, when once again we offer you Escape. This is CBS, the Columbia Broadcasting System.
Tired of the everyday routine? Ever dream of a life of romantic adventure? Want to get away from it all?
We offer you Escape. Escape, transcribed to free you from the four walls of today for a half hour of high adventure.
are searching frantically through the dark, empty rooms of an apartment, panic gripping your heart, terror at your heels. For the girl you love, who was with you a moment before, has disappeared, vanished, as if into thin air.
Today, we escape from reality with a gripping tale of a girl who vanished and the man who had to find her to save his life, as Cornell Woolrich told it in his great story, Finger of Doom.
Nothing unusual ever happens to you, huh? In your comfortable American city, nothing ever could it? Let me tell you something. Right on the common, everyday streets of a big city, I had the strangest, most fantastic adventure anyone could dream of. And I've had my fill of adventure for the rest of my life. This happened several years ago, before the war, on an ordinary evening in early spring. Well, not so ordinary, because I had a couple of free tickets to a good show, and I was picking Steffi up at her office for dinner. See, we were going to be married in less than 2 weeks. So naturally, I was impatient as I waited there on the sidewalk in front of her office building, and of course, she was late, last one to leave as usual. I felt like a picket pacing up and down in front of the door, but finally, there she was, spun gold piled on her head, blue eyes shining, and carrying...
Hi, darling.
What's that?
Have I kept you waiting long? I tried to hurry all I could. With this? Just a package. I promised his nibs I'd deliver it on the way home.
But you're not going home. We're eating out and going to a show.
But it's right on the way. I have to leave it at a flat in Martin Street. It won't take a minute.
Why can't he get somebody else to run his errands for him? We're late now. This'll cut our eating time down.
Woof, woof, Grumpy.
Oh,
So this is what the 13th does to you.
13th?
You mean you've forgotten? You mean you aren't counting the days?
Oh, sure. 13 days left.
13 and a half. Don't forget that half of it's to be a noon wedding. I don't like the 13 all by itself. I'll be glad when it's tomorrow when only 12 left.
You know something? You're cute. The more I know you, the cuter you get.
I bet you won't say that a year from now. I bet you'll be calling me your old lady then.
Will you mind?
Well, not right at first, maybe.
Okay, come on, let's make like delivery boys. Oh, what's the address?
Mr. Miller, 415 Martin Street, apartment 4F.
We're on our way. Sure is a frowsy neighborhood.
Everybody can't be rich, you know. 411, 413. Oh, there it is.
Yeah. Some clients your boss must have. I'll be glad when you aren't working for him anymore. Oh, did you give him your notice?
Yesterday. He gave me the funniest look. Good thing he doesn't know you. He'd eat you alive.
Hey, wait.
Huh?
Here it is.
Oh, I was sailing right by. See how you affect me?
Mm-hmm. Okay, give it to the hall man or the janitor or somebody, and let's get going.
Oh, no, I've got to take it up personally and get a receipt. Besides, there doesn't seem to be anybody here. Oh, it's one of those push-button doors. What did I say the name was again?
Muller or something, wasn't it?
What would I do without you? 4A, 4B, 4C. Oh, here it is, 4F. Oh, no wonder I couldn't find it. The name card's fallen out. Oh, this must be the button. You wait down here for me. I won't be a minute.
A minute's too long.
Well, this'll hold you until I get back. Oh, the door. Only a minute now. Bye.
Bye. For a minute, I watched her through the glass. She got into the little self-service elevator and closed the door. Then all I could see was the gleam from the elevator in use light. Then she was gone. I lit a cigarette and waited. How long does it take to smoke a cigarette? 5 minutes? 10? Anyway, I finished it. Nothing happened. I stood around fidgeting, shifting from one foot to the other, and from one shoulder leaning against the wall to the other. A woman came by with a squalling kid, gave me a haughty look, and went on in. Tried to figure out what could be taking so long. Maybe they didn't have a pencil to sign the receipt. Maybe they had to find one. I lit another cigarette, took a couple of puffs. But now my patience was gone. What is this? I rattled the door first, and then I pushed the button for apartment 4F. I still didn't plan to go up. I just wanted to let her know that I was still alive. But I got no answering buzz. I kept ringing it, holding my thumb down till it was white. Still no answer. Suddenly, I wasn't angry anymore. Suddenly, I was scared. I did the instinctive thing. I ran out into the street again and looked up at the face of the building, searching the windows, but of course there was nothing to see. And that move cost me a chance to get in. While I was out on the sidewalk, a seedy-looking character came out of the door, letting it click shut before I could get back in. I tried the buzzer again. Couldn't be out of order. They'd answered it when Steffi pushed it. But now, nothing. Dead to the world up there. By now it was 20 minutes. 20 minutes since she left me. Now I was frightened. I knew I had to get up there. I pushed another button, anyone at random. The door was released and I was in. Four F was at the back of the building. I stood out in the dark hallway and listened. There wasn't a sound. At first, this was a relief. At least she wasn't in any difficulty, or she'd be screaming. But then, when I began to knock and kick the door, practically break it down, and still nobody made a sound, I began to get panicky. Heads poked out of doors all along the hall.
Hey, cut out the racket!
Where will I find the janitor?
Down in the basement, I suppose.
I raced down to the basement, found the janitor eating his supper. I barged right in.
You looking for something?
Come up with me, quick. Will you bring your pass key? I want to open one of the flats.
What's the matter? What's wrong?
I don't like the looks of it. My girl took a package up. I've been waiting for her for over 20 minutes, and she never came down again. Now they won't answer the bell. Come on, please, hurry.
Oh, which apartment is it?
On the 4th floor. Come on, I'll show you.
What number?
4F, but...
Wait a minute. Couldn't be 4F, not that one.
Why not?
Because there's nobody living there. Why, that apartment's been vacant for 6 months.
He took me up and showed me he was right. It was an empty flat. I went through its rooms calling Steffi's name, but she wasn't there. There was nobody there. It looked like there hadn't been anybody there for months. The dust was thick on the bare floor, on the sills of the locked windows.
See, mister, she couldn't have come in here.
But I saw her ring the bell and go in the door.
In this door?
The downstairs door.
Oh, well, she could have gone to any apartment then.
But she was coming here. She rang this bell and somebody answered.
Nobody could have answered. Nobody's been here. She must have rung another bell.
Is there somebody in this apartment named Muller?
No, we never had anybody by that name. Not in the whole 12 years I've been here.
Somebody must have gotten in and was waiting for her.
Will you tell me how they could? It was locked. You saw me open it with me pass key, didn't you?
Listen, we're going to ask all the tenants on this floor. Maybe they heard something.
Now, wait a minute. I don't like to disturb them. Maybe this girl just walked out on you. Maybe it had a quarrel.
No, there was nothing like that. I know she wouldn't just walk out. Besides, how could she? Is there a back way?
Yes, but only through the basement. She would have had to pass right by me.
And you didn't see her, and I was waiting downstairs at the front door, and she didn't come out that way. Then obviously she's still in here.
Well, maybe. Or maybe...
What?
Are you sure she ever come in?
Of course. You mean, am I sure there ever was a girl?
Well, now, don't get excited, mister. All right, we'll look, we'll ask. Take it easy, take it easy.
Okay.
Hear anything in 4F? How could I? The place is empty.
I know, but didn't you hear something? Anything?
No. Yeah, the buzzer was going like crazy, like somebody was leaning on the button downstairs. But that
was
could have been
me.
anybody. Yeah. Then a little later, this guy banging on the door. He asked me where to find you.
Never mind.
Thank you. Sorry to have disturbed you.
Okay.
Well, that's all of them. No trace at all. Maybe now you'll let me get back to my supper. There's nothing more we can do. Maybe if you go where she lives or works, you might find her.
Wait here. I'm going to call the police. First, I got a patrolman from the corner. He asked a lot of questions and then called his station. A few minutes later, a detective was dropped off, a fellow by the name of Gilman. I must admit he was thorough. He checked on every apartment in the building. The only thing he learned was about the false ring which let me in. But there was only one, not two. And that meant that whoever buzzed for Steffi was expecting her. Gilman checked apartment 4F thoroughly, the windows with their undisturbed layer of dust, the door, the keyhole, everything. And then he said...
There's nothing to show that she or anyone else ever came in here, Bud.
Look, don't do this to me. You make it sound like she didn't come here with me at all.
Well, that's what it does sound like.
But don't you see... Look, I was going to take her to a show. Here are the tickets.
Don't mean a thing. We're going to build this from the ground up and see what we've got. You say her name is Stephanie Riska. Address?
120 Farragut.
What's she look like?
She's blonde, and she came up to about here on me.
Okay, don't let it get you.
I'm not scared because she's gone. It's because she's gone in such a fairy tale way. She just disappeared into thin air.
All right, let's get about finding her then. You met her at 6:15 outside the Bailey Goodwin building with the packets to be delivered here. Who'd she work for?
A press clipping service called the Green Star. It's a one-man organization operated by a man named Hessen. One dinky little room on the ground floor of the building.
What do they do?
I don't know much about it. They have a list of clients, and they go through the paper and clip out any story which mentions one of the clients. They get about a nickel a clipping.
How is there any money in that?
I don't know.
Okay, we're going up there. We'll find out.
The night watchman led us into the office after Gilman showed him his badge. It was a tiny room with only a desk, a telephone, and another table and a filing cabinet. Except for a lone can of Canadian Ace brew, all of them were bare as bones.
This is no office. This is a telephone booth.
Not a big business, I guess.
This is their list of clients. They can't be making very much money at those prices.
Steffi got paid every week.
There's nobody named Muller in the file.
What do you think?
I don't see anything here to indicate he even has a secretary.
You could ask the night watchman.
I already have. He's never seen her.
Well, but that doesn't mean anything. He works at night and she works in the daytime.
Okay, I only said he's never seen her. Doesn't know anything about her.
Hessen, her boss. You can ask him.
We're going there next, and I guess you'll have a chance. Wait a minute. Here's something.
What?
What kind of gum does your girl chew?
She doesn't. Likes Lifesavers, hates gum.
Well, whoever sits at this table chews gum. Lots of it. It's all over the bottom. Tutti frutti.
Oh, that doesn't mean anything. Maybe somebody came in, put it there. Maybe it's all. Maybe Hessen.
Okay, let's go. We'll see what he has to say.
Hessen lived in a swanky bungalow-type home in the suburbs. As Gilman and I left the police car and walked up the drive to the house, I got the strangest feeling of unreality. Like this was all a horrible nightmare. Couldn't be happening. My knees were sagging, but then Gilman was knocking on the door, and it was answered by an ugly, foreign-looking character who went away and returned to usher us into Hessen's presence. I'd seen him a time or two, but he didn't know me, so he gave no sign of recognition.
Good evening, gentlemen.
Mr. Hessen, I'm Sergeant Gilman, police force.
Oh, yes, I'm pleased to know you.
I won't take up much of your time, but I need a little help.
Gladly, if it is within my power.
Did you ever see this young fellow before?
No. What has he done?
I'm not sure yet. You know anyone named Muller at 415 Martine Street?
Muller? No, I don't know anyone by that name. I think we have a Miller, a Mrs. Elsie Miller, on our list, who all the time divorces and remarries. Will that do? She owes us $29.
Then you didn't send a package over to Muller, apartment 4F, 415 Martine Street at 6:15 this evening?
No.
Why, you...
Hold it. You keep quiet.
I'm sure I didn't, Sergeant. But wait, it's easy enough to confirm it. Oh, Miss Riska.
Yes?
Stephanie, will you please come in a moment?
What?
Steady.
My assistant happens to be right here at the house tonight. I had some dictation to give her, and she's transcribing it. We usually mail out clippings. Only when there's some urgent request do I send them by personal messenger.
Yes, sir?
Suddenly the room was spinning in front of my eyes. I was looking at it, trying to see it, but lights kept streaking across the room like comets. And their voices came to me through a thick fog.
Stephanie, did we send a package to 415 Martine Street this evening to a Mr. Muller?
No, sir. Not that I know of.
I see. And tell me, did you ever see this young man before? Do you know him?
Why, no, I don't believe I do.
Wait, this isn't Stephanie. He's calling somebody else by her name. This isn't Stephanie. I tell you that...
My dear sir, this is the only young lady I have working for me.
In just a moment, we will return to Escape. But first, Mr. and Mrs. X thought they were pretty smart, smarter than the Narcotics Bureau and the Bureau of Customs combined, but they overlooked a casual passenger aboard the luxury liner. For a fascinating true life tale of crime and smuggling on the high seas, hear Gangbusters tonight. And along with it, CBS's other great Saturday night thrill-a-minute show, The Adventures of Philip Marlowe. Both of these programs are regular Saturday night features on most of these same CBS network stations. Gangbusters recreates famous crimes and their solutions by national, state, and local agencies. The Adventures of Philip Marlowe are based on the character of the famous Private Eye, created by Raymond Chandler, the noted mystery story writer. And now, with our stars, Harry Bartell as Kenny, and with Ed Begley as Gilman, we return to the second act of Escape and Finger of Doom.
Hessen stood there and blandly said it. This strange girl was my fiancée, was Stephanie Riska. He stood there looking surprised and hurt, and she stared at me with a just right, puzzled expression on her face. Gilman was holding me with a sort of a half Nelson and gritting at me.
Stop it, stop it.
But I tell you, this isn't Steffi. Steffi is blonde. This girl is brunette. Steffi's short, comes up to here. This one's tall, I tell you.
Shut up, you're asking for trouble. Now calm down.
Sergeant, I don't believe I understand.
I'm just beginning to myself. Miss, how long have you been working for Mr. Hessen?
Why, since October of last year. About 6 months.
And your name is Stephanie Riska?
Why, yes, of course.
She's lying, I tell you.
Shut up! I don't mean to doubt your word, miss, but just for the record, I suppose you could show me some proof of your identity?
Why, yes, right here in my bag. My driver's license.
Oh, wait, the bag has initials. Oh, yeah, S.R.
Of course, S.R.
And the driver's license.
Steffi doesn't drive. She has no car.
But I do. It isn't a very good one,
Anything else?
Well, this letter, addressed to me.
Address 120 Farragut. May I look?
Why, yes, of course.
Uh-huh. It's genuine, all right. Here you are, and...
I don't know what else I have here, but... Oh.
I'll get it. Here you are.
Oh, thank you.
I see you carry chewing gum in your purse.
Why, yes.
Tutti frutti. Not many people like that flavor.
I never chew any other.
Well, thanks. Sorry to have bothered you both. Come on, chum.
I hope we've been able to help, Sergeant.
A lot, thanks. Good night.
Good night, Sergeant.
Okay, what's your racket, kid? Are you a pushover for the mental ward? Or are you working off a grudge against this guy? Or did you do something to some little blonde, blue-eyed number and you're trying to set up an alibi even before we find out about it?
Things like this don't happen. They can't. 1 minute she's here and then she's gone. No one will believe me.
Why should we? You haven't produced a single person all night who actually saw this blonde of yours.
Where'd I get her name and address, then?
That's one thing I'm not sure of. So I'll give you one more spin for your money. You stand or fall by the place she lived, 120 Farragut Street. Come on, let's go. Okay, this is it. Come on. What is it, a rooming house?
Yeah. She lived alone, just a room. She only came here from Harrisburg 6 months ago. But the landlady...
Now, what's the matter?
I just remembered. Hessen recommended this place to her.
Now, look. You want to go in or you want to go to headquarters? The tougher you get with me, the tougher I'll be on you.
Listen, you gotta listen. I was only up there once, but I remember it. Sticking in the mirror of the dresser is a litho of the Holy Mother. On the radiator's a rag doll I won for her at Coney Island and a Hickok wallet I gave her last Christmas. And on a shelf against the wall is a gas ring, and from the light fixture to the gas jet is a string where she hangs stockings to dry. Will you remember those things? The bedspread's green, and there's a green and yellow upholstered chair. Don't you see? I couldn't make these things up. She must be real.
You almost convinced me. Come on. When we get inside, you keep your mouth shut. One peep and I'll split your lip.
Yes?
You got a girl named Stephanie Riska living here?
Yep. 4th floor front.
How long has she been here?
Riska? 6 months.
What does she look like?
Dark hair, dark skin. About as tall as this young fella. Talks kind of husky. Why?
Police. I want to see her room.
Sure. Come right in.
Gilman practically had to support me all the way up. My knees just weren't functioning. But that was nothing to the shock I got when the landlady opened Steffi's door. The room was all different. Not one thing was the same as I had told Gilman. He didn't even look at me.
Has she always had it fixed up this way?
Always, since the first week she moved in.
Does she drive a car?
Yeah, a little old coupe. She's a real clean roomer. Only one thing I got to complain about. Oh, there it is again, under the washstand.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Chewing gum. Yeah, let me see it. Uh-huh. Tutti frutti.
You better watch your friend. He looks like he's going to faint.
Let him fold up. That isn't anything to the falls. He'll be taken in a few minutes.
What did he do? Murderer?
Not her, but I got a good hunch he murdered somebody, and he picked the wrong name out of the hat.
He don't look like... Look out!
I hit him and ran. I knew I had to. He was going to take me to the police station. Then I wouldn't have any chance to find Steffi. Not for a long time. Maybe too long a time. And I had to find her. I went back to the Martine Street flat. It was the only place to go. Back to where she disappeared. Start from there. I knew Gilman would catch up with me sooner or later, but I might be able to turn up something first. I told the janitor the cops had sent me back to take another look at the apartment and got him to give me the passkey. He fell for it. I went up to the apartment alone. But once there, I couldn't find a thing. I wandered through the empty rooms, calling her name helplessly. I tapped the walls, scraped the plaster, tested the windows. I'd been there about 10 minutes when I heard a little sound out in the hall, like somebody coming up the stairs very quietly. I slipped out the door and stood at the top of the stairs. It was the janitor, with Gilman and 2 cops. They were coming up the stairs. There was only one way for me to go, up, so up I went. And then they saw me.
Hey, you, come down here.
One flight up, I came to the top of the stairs. A sort of skylight window opened onto the roof. It was standing loose, partly open. I ran out across the roof, tried to hurdle the low wall to the next roof. I missed, fell.
All right, don't move. I got you, you lily-livered louse. And when I get you down to hell...
All right. I'll go quietly. It's no use now.
Well, I'll be...
What's the matter?
Calhoun, throw your light over here.
What?
Okay.
What? It's a package.
Yeah, package lying here on the roof. Addressed to Muller, apartment 4F.
That's it. Don't you see? That's what she brought.
Holy smoke. Okay, kid. Somebody did bring a package here tonight. I'll give you that. And when I give you that, I guess I give you all of it. She's a blonde, never chews gum, doesn't drive, all of it. Somebody must have jumped her, brought her up this way across the roofs and down through some other house. They dropped the package on the way. Maybe didn't have time to come back and pick it up.
What'll we do?
Calhoun.
Yeah.
Call in. Have a radio car keep Hessen's house on Myrtle Drive spotted until we get there. I want to stop off at that office again first.
Right, Sarge.
Do you think...
No, kid, not yet. They would have done it right here in the empty flat and let you take the rap. Come on. Buck up. We got work to do.
At Hessen's office, we found 2 things.
These files are funny. About every third name is a foreign one with a foreign mailing address. Why would those people want local press clippings?
What do you mean?
I mean, this looks like a job for the FBI. Spy stuff. Maybe your girl had found something out, and that's why they figured she was too dangerous. Did she ever say anything?
No, but she told them she was quitting next week to get married.
So she didn't suspect anything, but they thought she did. Same thing. Come on, we'll stop off at that rooming house. I want that landlady picked up. Obviously, she's one of them. Changed the room all around, stuck the gum into the washstand, everything.
Hey, wait. Look, on the floor next to the baseboard.
Yeah, gilt hairpin. So she was blonde. Okay, let's go.
At the rooming house, with the landlady turned over to a cop downstairs, Gilman went over the room once more. Fished into the wash basin drain and came out with a couple of blonde hairs.
Now, why didn't I think of that the first time? Girl shampoos her hair once in a while.
Then we were on our way to Hessen's house on Myrtle Drive. All the way I was praying. When we arrived, it was dark, deserted. Even the police car Gilman had ordered wasn't there. We went in, shooting the lock off the door. We searched the ground floor, then upstairs. In an attic room, we found a shortwave radio. But not Steffi. Just as we got back downstairs, Calhoun came in with a report from the radio car.
They trailed him to Pier 07, North River. The 3 of them got on a tramp steamer that sailed immediately.
And they're gone. It's too late.
They won't get out of the harbor. We'll have them picked off at quarantine. 3 of them, you say, Calhoun? A blonde girl?
No, they said 2 men and a dark girl.
Then where's Steffi?
Still here, probably.
But where?
We'll soon... Wait. You smell something? Smoke?
Yeah. And gasoline.
The basement. Come on, hurry.
Smoke. The basement's filled with smoke.
Here, over this way.
Steffi! Steffi!
Hurry, this place will be a mass of flames in a minute.
I can't see. Steffi!
Here, give me a hand. Here she is. Hurry.
Oh, Steffi. Is she...
No, she's breathing. Hurry, let's get her out of here fast.
In the next few minutes, there was a lot of excitement around there. While the fire companies fought the fire, we cut the ropes off Steffi and revived her. She was all right, and I sat there in the police car with my arms around her as if I'd never let her go again. And that's just how I felt, too. Then a radio report came in.
Well, they got them off the ship at quarantine. They'll be turned over to the FBI eventually, but first... Well, they better hadn't let me get my hands on them. You know, kid, she is pretty.
Gee, thanks for everything.
It's okay. Well, I gotta go and... Oh, say, I've got something I want to return to you.
Yeah, what?
This.
I went out like a light when he hit me. And a few minutes later,
Kenny.
when I came to, Steffi was holding me in her arms,
Kenny.
stroking my head and smiling.
Kenny, he said to tell you no hard feelings. But when anyone socks Dick Gilman over the head, he gets socked back, even if they're the best of friends.
Steffi, you know something?
What, darling?
You're cute with stars in your hair.
Escape is produced and directed by Norman Macdonald. Today we have presented transcribed Finger of Doom by Cornell Woolrich, adapted for radio by John Dunkel. Starred as Kenny was Harry Bartell, with Ed Begley as Gilman. Featured in the cast were Joy Terry, Edgar Barrier, Louise Arthur, Peter Prouse, and Kay Miller. Special music was arranged and played by Ivan Ditmars. Next week.
You are clinging to a narrow window ledge, your strength running out. While before your eyes, seen through the window, the most beautiful girl in the world is about to die. Because of you.
Next week, we escape with an unusual story, The Adaptive Ultimate by John Jessel. Be sure to tune in again at the same time next week, when once again we offer you Escape. You can escape again tomorrow night when CBS's famous dramatic series presents screen star Edmund O'Brien in another special Sunday night Escape broadcast at 6:30 Eastern Standard Time. Mr. O'Brien will star as an explorer who becomes a prisoner in a beautiful and strange country populated by blind men. Be sure to hear tomorrow night's Escape, starring Edmund O'Brien in H.G. Wells' famous story, Country of the Blind, on most of these same CBS network stations. Now, stay tuned for 5 minutes of the latest news, to be followed by Let's Pretend, over most of these same stations. This is Roy Rowan speaking for CBS, the Columbia Broadcasting System.